You are about to discover something that will completely shock you. Everything you believe about anger and irritation is wrong. Completely wrong. And this lie you've been carrying for years is destroying your relationships, your inner peace, and your quality of life without you even realizing it. Imagine discovering that there is a person who never gets irritated. Never. No matter how provocative, disrespectful, or frustrating the situation, this person simply doesn't lose their calm. You'd probably think, impossible. That person isn't human. But what if I told you that you can become exactly that person? The brutal truth is that you are being controlled. Not by other people, not by circumstances, but by something far more subtle and devastating: your own automatic reactions. You've become a slave to emotional patterns you don't even recognize, living in a mental prison where each trigger turns you into someone you don't even know. But here's the first disturbing secret that will shake your beliefs. Genuine anger lasts only 90 seconds. 90 seconds. That's right. After that, everything you call anger is just you feeding a story in your mind, replaying, ruminating, and perpetuating an emotion that should have naturally faded. Think about that for a moment. When you stay irritated for hours, days, or even weeks with someone, only the first 90 seconds were real anger. Everything else was an unconscious choice to keep a mental narrative alive. You are literally choosing to suffer, without knowing that you are choosing it. But why has no one ever told you this? Why have you spent your entire life believing that other people have the power to make you irritated? The answer will shock you even more, because there is a deeply rooted myth in our society, a myth that keeps us trapped and vulnerable. It's the button myth. The illusory belief that other people have magical buttons directly connected to your emotions. That when someone says or does something specific, you automatically have to get angry, irritated, or upset. As if you were a robot programmed to always react the same way to the same stimuli. But here's the first unsettling question that will start shattering this illusion. If other people really had that power over you, why can the same situation affect you differently on different days? Why does your boss's comment sometimes make you furious and other times not bother you at all? Why can your brother's provocation deeply irritate you on a Monday, but on Friday you even find it funny? The answer is simple and devastating. The trigger is not in the other person's action, but in unresolved emotional wounds inside you. The people around you are just mirrors reflecting inner issues you haven't yet faced. Each irritation is an alarm pointing to something within you that needs healing. Imagine discovering that you've lived your entire life reacting not to present situations, but to past traumas, fears, and insecurities that remain active in your subconscious. That every time you lose your temper with someone, you are actually reacting to a younger version of yourself still carrying old pain. This means that the person who drives you crazy has no power over you. Zero. They are simply, unknowingly, touching an emotional wound that never properly healed. It's like having an open cut on your arm and someone accidentally bumping into it. The pain you feel isn't their fault, it's the consequence of the wound that already existed. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. If you're not aware of these internal wounds, you're doomed to be controlled by them for the rest of your life. Every situation will continue to affect you in the same way. You'll keep reacting automatically, and your inner peace will remain dependent on other people's behavior. And the most tragic part, you're probably passing these patterns on to the people you love. Your children, your partner, your friends, all learning from you that it's normal and acceptable to have your inner peace hijacked by external circumstances. But what if there were a way to break this cycle? What if you could develop a kind of emotional armor that made you truly unshakable? What if you discovered that there is a space, a sacred space, between any trigger and your response, where your true freedom resides? The journey you are about to begin will reveal not only how to free yourself from this unnecessary suffering, but also how to become someone who never again needs to get irritated with anyone. Someone who responds instead of reacts. Someone who keeps their inner peace intact regardless of the chaos around them. If you are enjoying this revelation and want to discover the secrets that will completely transform your relationship with emotions, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any part of this transformative journey. Get ready, because what comes next will shatter your limiting beliefs about anger and emotional control even further. Now you need to face an even more uncomfortable truth. That anger you feel, that irritation that seems so justified, so legitimate, it isn't even real. It's an emotional lie you tell yourself to avoid feeling something much deeper and more vulnerable. Anger is always a secondary emotion. Always. Behind it hides the real feeling you don't want to admit: fear, pain, shame, rejection, or inadequacy. Anger is just the mask you use to protect yourself from the vulnerability of acknowledging those more delicate emotions. Think about the last time you were really irritated with someone. Now ask yourself a brutal question. What were you actually feeling beneath that anger? Fear of being disrespected? Pain from not being valued? Shame for feeling inadequate? Anger was just the safer disguise to avoid facing the emotional truth. That explains why when you express anger, it rarely solves anything. In fact, it usually makes everything worse. Because you're attacking the symptom, not the cause. It's like taking painkillers for an infection. It gives temporary relief, but the disease keeps spreading. But here's where the situation becomes truly sinister. Every time you choose anger instead of facing the real emotion, you're strengthening a destructive pattern. You're teaching your brain that this is the appropriate response for similar situations. You are literally getting addicted to anger as an escape mechanism. And anger addiction is one of the most destructive there is, because unlike other dependencies, society often validates and even encourages it. You have the right to be angry. Don't let anyone walk all over you. These well-intentioned phrases are keeping you trapped in a cycle of suffering. But here's the second secret that will revolutionize your understanding. Between any trigger and your response there is a space. A space of choice. A sacred moment where you have the absolute power to decide who you will be. This is the point of choice. Most people live their entire lives without ever discovering this space. They go straight from trigger to automatic reaction, as if it were inevitable. But it's not. There is always a pause, even if it's just microseconds, where you can choose a different response. Imagine having conscious access to this space. Imagine being able to pause, breathe, and ask, how do I want to respond to this? What kind of person do I want to be in this moment? Instead of being hijacked by the emotion, you become the director of your own emotional experience. But to access this space, you need to develop something most people never develop, the observer self. The part of you that can observe your own emotions without being consumed by them. As if you were simultaneously the actor and the director of the movie of your life. Here's a question that will change everything. Who is that part of you that notices when you are irritated? Think carefully. If you can notice I'm getting irritated, it means there is a part of you that is not irritated, that is just observing the irritation. That is your higher consciousness, your observer self. When you develop this ability, something extraordinary happens. You stop fully identifying with your emotions. Instead of I am an angry person, you begin to think, I am observing anger arising in me. The difference seems subtle, but it is revolutionary. Because when you observe an emotion instead of being consumed by it, you automatically create distance. And with distance comes perspective. With perspective comes choice. And with choice comes freedom. But here's the first unexpected twist that will shock you. The people who irritate you the most are your greatest teachers. Not enemies, not obstacles, teachers. They are offering you free opportunities to practice your emotional control, to strengthen your emotional intelligence, to evolve as a human being. Every difficult person in your life is like an emotional personal trainer. They are forcing you to develop emotional muscles you would never build if your life were always easy and harmonious. They are gifts disguised as problems. Think about it. If you can stay calm with someone who is deliberately trying to provoke you, imagine how easy it will be to keep peace with normal people. Every challenging situation is a training opportunity to become emotionally stronger and more stable. But here's the third devastating secret. You can't control other people, but you can set healthy boundaries. The difference is fundamental. Controlling is trying to change someone else's behavior to feel better. Setting boundaries is protecting your own energy and inner peace regardless of what others do. Healthy boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They let love and connection pass through but block toxicity and disrespect. When you have clear boundaries, you stop feeling like a victim of circumstances because you know exactly where you end and where the other begins. But here's where many people go wrong. They confuse boundaries with ultimatums or manipulation. A true boundary is simply communicating your needs clearly and the natural consequences if they are not respected. No drama, no emotional blackmail, no trying to change anyone. And here's the fourth secret that few discover. When you stop reacting emotionally to provocations, people stop provoking. Because provocation only works if there is a reaction. When you become truly unshakable, you take the fun out of the game and people lose interest. But to reach this level of emotional mastery, you need to face something most people avoid at all costs, the truth about your own destructive emotional patterns. Now we reach the most critical moment of this revelation. You are about to discover why, even knowing all of this, you still keep losing your temper. Why, even understanding that anger is secondary, that there is a space of choice, you still let yourself be consumed by irritation. The answer will leave you speechless. There is a secret protocol that emotionally intelligent people use when they feel they are losing control. A protocol so simple it seems obvious, but so powerful it can save entire relationships. It's the timeout protocol. When you feel the first signs that you are being emotionally hijacked, heart racing, muscles tensing, thoughts becoming confused, you stop everything and walk away. Physically. No dramatic explanations, no speeches, no trying to solve anything in that moment. You simply say, I need a few minutes to process this properly. Let's continue this conversation soon. And you leave. You go to another place. You breathe. You allow the 90 seconds of true anger to pass naturally. But here's what most people do wrong. They use this time to feed the mental story even more. They ruminate, build arguments, imagine confrontation scenarios, construct a mental case against the other person. That is the opposite of what should happen. A true timeout is used to reset your nervous system, to exit fight or flight mode and return to rational functioning, to reconnect with your observer self and remember who you really want to be in that situation. But here's where we discover something truly disturbing about human nature. Most people don't actually want to be emotionally stable. They say they do, but unconsciously sabotage any real progress. Because anger offers something addictive, the feeling of moral superiority. When you are angry, you automatically place yourself in the role of righteous victim and the other person in the role of villain. This feeds your ego in a deeply satisfying way. You feel entitled to judge, to take revenge, to punish. Anger gives you an emotional license to be cruel that you would never allow yourself in a normal state. And here's the second devastating twist. Your emotional triggers follow predictable patterns. They are not random. There is a map of your triggers, a kind of emotional GPS that shows exactly where you are vulnerable and how those vulnerabilities were created. Every current trigger is an echo of a past wound. That irritation with your boss who doesn't recognize your work? It echoes the wound of not being valued by your parents. That anger with your partner who doesn't listen? It echoes the pain of being ignored in childhood. That frustration with irresponsible people? It echoes the trauma of having to be overly responsible too early. When you map your triggers, something extraordinary happens. They lose the power to surprise you. You begin to anticipate your own emotional reactions. Ah, he's doing exactly what always destabilizes me. But now I know this touches my rejection wound. I can choose a different response. But here's the third loop that will blow your mind. If you can predict your triggers, why do you still fall into them? The answer will reveal the darkest aspect of the human psyche. Because part of you doesn't want to heal those wounds. Part of you wants to keep them open to continue justifying immature behaviors. It's as if you had a toxic relationship with your own emotional wounds. They hurt you, but they also define you. They limit you, but they also give you an identity. I am someone who was hurt, so I have the right to behave this way. Healing those wounds means giving up that victim identity. It means taking full responsibility for your reactions. It means no longer having excuses for destructive behaviors. And that terrifies most people. But here's where everything changes. When you finally accept to map and heal your triggers, you discover something that will transform not only your life, but the lives of everyone around you. You develop compassionate distance. Compassionate distance is the ability to love and support difficult people without absorbing their emotional dramas. It's like being an emotional lifeguard. You can help someone who is drowning without jumping in the water and drowning with them. You stop trying to save, fix, or change other people. You stop carrying other people's emotional burdens. You stop feeling responsible for everyone's feelings. But you do this while keeping your heart open, without becoming cold or insensitive. And here is the moment of greatest emotional intensity in this journey. When you truly master these skills, something deeply touching happens. The people around you naturally begin to calm down. Your presence becomes a refuge. Your emotional stability creates a field of energy that positively influences everyone who comes into contact with you. Children stop throwing tantrums around you. Aggressive people lower their guard. Tense situations resolve more easily. Not because you're trying to control anyone, but because your own emotional regulation creates an environment where others feel safe to regulate themselves too. You become that rare person who never loses their temper. Not by repression, not by coldness, but by genuine emotional mastery. People start seeking your presence in difficult moments. You become a reference of stability in a chaotic world. But to reach this level of mastery, you must face the final challenge, the hardest of all. You must change the story you tell yourself about everything that has happened in your life. We've arrived at the final moment of this transformative journey, and you are about to discover the most powerful secret of all. The secret that definitively separates those who achieve emotional mastery from those who spend their entire lives as slaves to their automatic reactions. This secret is called the end of the narrative. And it will revolutionize not only how you deal with irritation, but how you experience reality itself. Here is the final liberating truth. It's not the facts that make you irritated, but the story you tell about those facts. Two people can live exactly the same situation and have completely opposite reactions, depending on the mental narrative each one creates about what happened. Imagine two people in traffic when someone cuts them off. The first person thinks, "That idiot did it on purpose. No manners, no respect for anyone, probably like this in every part of life." Result: intense anger, ruined day, still talking about it at dinner. The second person thinks, "That person must be in a hurry, or maybe didn't even see my car." Happens to everyone sometimes. Result: accepts the situation naturally, moves on in peace, forgets the episode in minutes. Same situation. Different narratives. Completely opposite emotional experiences. And here is the fourth and final loop that will complete your transformation. If you have the power to choose what story to tell about any situation, why do you keep choosing stories that make you suffer? The answer will shock you, because you didn't know you were choosing. Most people live in narrative autopilot. They simply accept the first interpretation that arises in their mind, as if it were the only possible version of the truth. But it isn't. There is always an alternative interpretation, more compassionate, more constructive, more liberating. When that colleague interrupts you in a meeting, you can think, "He doesn't respect me and wants to make me look incompetent," or "He must be eager to contribute to the discussion and didn't notice I was talking." Which of these narratives serves you better? When your partner forgets to do something they promised, you can think, "They don't care about me and don't value our relationship," or "They must be overwhelmed with other concerns lately." Which of these stories builds connection instead of conflict? This isn't about denying reality or becoming naive. It's about recognizing that we rarely have complete information about other people's motivations and circumstances. And when we don't know the whole truth, why not choose the interpretation that allows us to keep our inner peace? But here's where everything connects in an extraordinary way. When you master the art of rewriting your mental narratives, something miraculous happens. You no longer need to change other people to feel good. Because your inner peace no longer depends on anyone else's behavior. You become truly free. Free from the need to control. Free from the need for everyone to act according to your expectations. Free from the emotional prison where you used to live. And here is the most powerful moral lesson of this journey. The greatest demonstration of strength is not reacting intensely to provocations, but staying centered regardless of the chaos around you. Anyone can lose their temper. Anyone can shout, lash out, retaliate. That requires no skill at all. But staying serene when everyone else is losing control? Responding with wisdom when others are reacting with emotion? Being the safe harbor in the middle of an emotional storm? That is true mastery. When you develop this ability, you're not just transforming your own life. You are breaking generational cycles of emotional reactivity. You are teaching the people around you that there is another way to be. You are planting seeds of peace in a world that desperately needs them. Your children will grow up seeing a different model of how to handle conflict. Your relationships will deepen because people feel safe being vulnerable with you. Your career will thrive because you become known as someone who keeps mental clarity under pressure. But the deepest impact is internal. You discover a sense of peace and self-confidence that nothing external can shake. Because you know that no matter what happens around you, you have the tools to maintain your emotional stability. You stop being a hostage to circumstances and become the architect of your own emotional experience. Every challenging situation becomes an opportunity to practice and strengthen your skills. Every difficult person becomes an involuntary teacher helping you grow. And here is the most transformative conclusion of all. Emotional control is not an innate talent that some people have and others don't. It is a skill that can be developed through conscious practice. Just as you can train physical muscles until they become strong, you can train your emotional muscles until they become unshakable. Every time you choose to pause instead of react, you are strengthening the muscle of self-regulation. Every time you rewrite a negative mental narrative, you are strengthening the muscle of perspective. Every time you stay calm in a provocative situation, you are strengthening the muscle of emotional mastery. Over time, these responses become automatic. You no longer need to make a conscious effort to stay calm, it becomes your default setting. You naturally become that person who never loses control, who never gets irritated, who never allows themselves to be destabilized by others' behavior. People begin to ask, how do you always stay so calm? And the answer is simple: you discovered that true strength lies in serenity, not in reactivity. You learned that inner peace is a choice that can be made at every moment, regardless of external circumstances. This is your new reality. A reality where you never again need to be irritated or upset with anyone. Where you consciously respond instead of automatically reacting. Where you are the captain of the ship of your emotional life, wisely navigating through any storm. The journey of transformation begins now. Every moment is a new opportunity to practice these skills. And if this content has changed your perspective on emotional control, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep evolving toward the most centered and powerful version of yourself. Your new emotional life awaits you. A life of true inner freedom.